Hey y'all, I got another video to make today. Shaq and Kobe are going at it again. Nostalgia. This is the era that I grew up on. Shaq and Kobe hating each other. Feels like old times. Must be a championship around the corner. That's the way this looks like. Every time these guys are beefing, usually there was a ring coming. But no, honestly, just to be thorough, Kobe Bryant basically was sitting with someone on some type of interview. Looked like an intimate setting of some sort, something like almost like a Gary V type of vibe. They were sitting on stage, in a chair, talking to a specific person with Kobe. It was that kind of thing. So, yeah, dude basically asked him, "Hey, Kobe, if Shaq would have had your work ethic, how well do you think he would have done? How well do you think Shaq would have done?" And he basically said he thought Shaq would have been the greatest player of all time if he would have had Kobe's work ethic, and they would have probably had 12 rings had he been in the gym with him like he had been in the gym himself. And of course Shaq, wasn't going to take that lying down. He clapped back and said if he would have passed the ball, he'd have more rings too. He said, especially in the Detroit series, and he said, all real, that facts, whatever, basically confirming it. Like, Kobe wasn't passing in that series, and that's why we lost the series. My honest response to this is this. The NBA be lobbing the ESPN and Fox stories in the offseason. I think this is much ado about nothing, honestly. I think these guys are way past their problems. I think they're fathers now. I don't think they're both as ego-driven as they once were. They're not in the locker room together anymore. I do think that Shaq could take this away, but I think this is very easily brushed aside going forward. I don't think this is going to be a thing. I hope it ain't, but Shaq has been getting on TV and supporting Kobe quite a bit, going on television saying a lot of positive things about Kobe. So for Kobe to come out and say something like this, it does feel like he's resisting support coming from someone that he used to not have, good interactions with, not cool with, or so to speak, someone you used to beef with. So that could be taken away. But I honestly think this is one of those situations where it's quiet around the NBA right now. It hasn't been all summer, and here's one for you guys. Shaq and Kobe can beef a little bit this week. We'll talk about it, and then go on to the next thing, and we'll look up, and there'll be some basketball actually being played. So, I wouldn't be surprised if this came from up top. Hey, Kobe, hey, Shaq, would you guys just do something? Just get them talking about us a little further. Let's just keep the ball rolling. Because that's really what it's about. The NFL's getting ready to start up, so football's going to get a little energy. Let's just keep some stories out there, keep people talking. And that's what I think this is more so about. Yeah, did those guys have a weird vibe about each other? Yeah, they've had beef for a long time. Does it seem like they fixed it? It seems like a lot of years have passed. They've been seen together. They seem to have good interactions when they do, so I don't imagine that they would have problems going forward, especially off of something so small as this. They're not that sensitive. Shaq appears to be sensitive, but not as sensitive as he used to be. And I know Kobe Bryant, if what I've seen from Kobe Bryant is true, he could care less about nothing at all, what you're saying at all. He does not care. But it is all in good fun. They're both warriors. They're both competitive. They're both fighters. So, in terms of competitive spirit, that is. So, I don't think this is going to be something that we have to take too seriously. But it is kind of funny. Now, the question is, do I agree? 12 rings? Nah, we wouldn't run 12 rings. But we would have had about 7. I think we could have won about 7. Yeah. Kobe ended up with 5, right? 5 rings? Shaq ended up with 4. Yeah, I think they could have won about 7 together over a long period of time, but a lot of things would have had to align. So maybe even that's a bit of a stretch in my imagination. But all in all, I think the cohesion between those two would have gotten better, and had Shaq been in better shape, I think his career would have lasted longer. His prime would have lasted longer. So, yeah, that adds to that. And then Kobe wouldn't have had those wasted years where he was just, getting knocked off by people like Phoenix and stuff like that. Those years would have never taken place. Probably would have gotten another star down there with Shaq and Kobe. Who knows who that would have been. Maybe they would have prolonged the life expectancy of the dynasty, so to speak. So I think there could have been a good stretch run if they would have stayed together and Shaq would have been in shape. Now, do I agree with Shaq in regards to Kobe being the reason we lost that Detroit series? No. Um, there were circumstances where basically Detroit was clogging the paint, and we didn't have enough perimeter shooting, and Karl Malone had went down, so we had to make adjustments to our regular lineup during that series that we hadn't had to make throughout any other series in the playoffs, because Karl Malone had basically been there all year, if my memory serves me correct. So when he went down with that freak accident, somebody ran into his knee while he was sitting out of bounds, if I remember that correctly. He wasn't even on the floor when that knee injury took place. God. But yeah, it knocked him out of that series, and he was playing quite well in those playoffs. He was Karl Malone, as I remembered him. He hadn't really lost too much, to be honest. So before that knee injury, it looked like he could sign on for another couple years. Who knows what happens if he doesn't go down? In that same breath, I have to give Detroit so much credit because they came in a very, very sound, defensive, and complete basketball team run by Larry Brown, the great. They weren't known for scoring, but they didn't really need to because Ben Wallace and Tayshaun Prince and Rasheed Wallace, Chauncey Billups, and the Mask. God, I can't think of the man's name. It's Richardson, right? Not Richardson. God, I can't think of his name, but he wore the mask. Forgive me, homeboys from Philly. But, yeah, if it wasn't for those guys playing the way that they did, and then they had a strong bench. Lindsey Hunter had went to their bench after winning the championship with us. He ended up on their team the next year, beating us. That was wild. So they just had a really, really, really great defensive unit that took us by surprise because it was year one that they had all been together. But I remember when they got Rasheed Wallace, when Detroit got Rasheed Wallace, I knew for a fact that they were going to be the team that we had to face. And I knew that we had old bodies going up against youngsters, and I was like, that series could be a little interesting because you don't know who could beat us. And that's exactly how that crap played out. But I don't think it was because we didn't have the horses when healthy. If Karl Malone would have been there, we would have given them a long series. But without Karl Malone, with the adjustments that were needed to be made and how sound they were defensively, you can't have a situation where your offense wasn't completely on a string against a team like that. That's basically what it came down to. Our offense was thrown off. Weren't that great offensively to begin with without Shaq dominating, and he was starting to age. Situation where Kobe was boiled over, and Kobe was cold in that series. If I remember correctly, they had done a fantastic job. Rip Hamilton, my bad, that's his name. Rip Hamilton did a fantastic job against his homeboy Kobe Bryant from Philly. So it was a lot of that. If I remember Rip Hamilton's game correctly, and I keep saying that, but he just never got tired. He was the type of dude that could really keep up with Kobe for 48 minutes, running them around screens, and you would have to also work on the other end because he would be the type of guy that would bounce off screens and splash a corner three on you. And they just ran such fantastic set plays in the half court with Chauncey Billups leading the way, who obviously was someone who hit big shots consistently, seemed to play better as the game closed in. So I give Detroit more credit than I take away from the Lakers, to be completely honest. They were just a better team that year. They were a younger team that year, and they won the championship for a reason. Karl Malone would have made it a series, though. I do believe Karl would have made a series. Kobe not passing the ball wasn't a problem. They clogged both of them. That was the reality of it. And that's why I don't want to make this something that it's not, but that's why I look at the Rockets the way that I do, people, because that's how I view the Rockets. They could get straight through the whole regular season, but they're going to run into the same problems that Shaq and Kobe did against Detroit. Because when you have two stars that are one-dimensional, Kobe wasn't doing much passing. Shaq was a paint player. Russell Westbrook is a downhill, move this away player no matter what. Doesn't stretch the floor. James Harden, 100% ISO. When you have that type of set thing to zero in on when it's time to scheme, it's very easy to scheme against because they don't have other options. But if you have a power forward like Karl Malone, someone who could pull attention away from those two stars, you have another dimension that allows those two stars to have opportunities to succeed. And that's all they need is opportunities. They can get hot quickly. We didn't have that in Detroit. Shaq and Kobe were easily able to be zoned in on and neutralized because we didn't have other options. But we were used to having another option in Karl Malone that was snatched away. So that's how I view that series. That's exactly how I view the Houston Rockets. They need a 4. They need somebody who can do the same thing Karl Malone did for Shaq and Kobe, and wasn't able to against Detroit. That's been my thing. Thank you guys for watching. I'm all over the place. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. 10 minutes is good. Hope you all are enjoying yourselves. Shaq and Kobe, get it together. Stop playing with us. Yeah, that's it. Peace.